All right, welcome. It is November 8th, 2024. It's kind of important. Today we're going to talk about current events and remembering to focus where you have control. Welcome. This is the Take Your Health Back Now podcast with Kendra Duquette and me, Jenny Wise. We run Take Your Health Back Now. We work one-on-one with people in Duquette Functional Medicine Preventative Health Clinic. We are just all around experts in environmental toxins and preventative health, and we are here to share that knowledge with you and create some value and hopefully help you on your journey to health. All right, so today we are talking about current events. We're not going to focus too much on any one current event, but this time of the year, it is election cycle year, and we just got through the election process. So there's a lot of like a flurry of new information and change, and whether you're happy or not, or kind of just unsure, it's current, it's going on, and there's a lot of chatter. So we're just gonna check in around that and remind you on how you can remember to focus on where you have control, to remember to take control and not give that away in whether it's in a positive or negative way.
Right. And we always say that freedom is having control, and having control is being able to make your own decisions and then take action. And that's what it is. But, we wanted to do this today, and not only what Jenny said, but also because we were just talking about this before, people tend to, when you hear all these things, the health is a big topic right now. So you hear all of these ideas and things that may happen moving forward, but then you tend to give up the control over your health and think somebody else is coming to save you, that this is going to save it all for you. And, and we've been talking about the conventional medicine medical system needs to crumble and is crumbling for years.
Yeah, needs to crumble faster.
Right. And we've been for decades talking about the environmental side of things and the chemicals in our food and, all the things we always talk about. But if these steps are taken, they're great steps. They're amazing steps, and they've needed to be taken for a long time. And we've known that, but it doesn't mean that it is going to be the all be all end all for you and your health. This is years down the road. And even if magically all of these things happen, chemicals are taken out of the food, the EMFs are dealt with, all of these things, just because the yellow dye, the red dye, things like that are taken out of food, it's still, if the food is still there, if people are still eating the food, it's still dead food. There is no nutrition in the food. And also remember that always, if something is, made illegal, or all of a sudden everybody seems to know about it, companies need to take a chemical or whatever it is. And we're just talking about food right now. Food is just a piece of it. But they will always put something back in because it had a purpose. So let's just talk about dyes, because there's a lot of people talking about dyes. Dyes need to be taken out of food because they're neurotoxins and they cause cancer and different things. And once the dyes are taken out, because probably you've heard by now that just say Doritos. The Doritos we have here or the Skittles are different than the ones that Europe
or the Mountain Dew.
Right. And they have more plant-based dyes rather than we have these chemical dyes that were coal-based, and now they're made from petroleum. But just because now they have plant-based dyes doesn't mean that food is any better.
No, notice that the three that we could come up with that are actually, those brand names are talked about, they are specified and called out. Those aren't healthy foods, whether they have plant-based dyes or not.
No. And the other thing to remember now, if a lot of people have it in their head that the plant-based diets will be so much better for us, but now everything that's plant-based, if it's in a processed food like that, it's that bioengineered synthetic biology. So it's not like,
which is what we're talking about, because the things that most people would consider healthier, like not a chemical based dye, are more expensive. So to actually get that from plants, there's a lot more time and energy put into that. It costs more, it cuts into bottom lines. So they have found alternatives that are cheaper, which is they can make the same plants in a lab, and it's just the protein structured synthetic biology. That's the most common current replacement for those kind of things. So kind of the point is, you have an impact in the US, at least on government. Like you don't have control over the government. No one person does. And that's good. That's how it should be. But you do have an impact, and you can impact, the rules and regulations and the change that's going to happen. But you always have control of your own environment. These things that we're talking about, that there will be like big sweeping change on, you already had the option to opt out. You don't have to eat the Skittles, the bad ones or the good ones.
Right.
So while this change in this direction is good, and it's good that we have impact and we can see it coming, and it is great for future generations, and you'll have less exposure even when you're not making that choice yourself. You still have all the control in your own environment. So don't just say, oh, the government is now amazing and I love it and it will do everything to keep me happy and safe.
Right. So there's steps,
Right.
but not the solution for sure. And for the say the kids that for whatever reason, because so many people do not understand, like they literally think the Doritos is food. They don't understand. And then kids that are eating these type of foods, it's out of their control. And when you're a kid, you just want to eat the things that everyone else is eating anyway. But people also, we talk to you and we talk about what Jenny just said, making your own choice. You shouldn't be eating the Doritos anyway. But so many people don't know what they should be eating. They don't know how to eat this way. They don't know how to prepare food even. It goes, if you took all of those processed foods off of the shelves, which is, that's not going to happen. But if you took them all off the shelves and said they were illegal, and now you can only eat fresh fruits and vegetables and go to your local farms, people would freak out. Like they wouldn't even know.
Right, because they don't have the
know how to
skills.
eat or what to eat or how to make it, so it's definitely a learning process. But for those of you listening to this, excuse me, you are probably on your journey to health. And so we're talking to you, and that's when it comes into you just need to avoid these foods. It's kind of like the Annie's brand or that Barbara's, I think it's called, the cereal. I think the Barbara's brand had something that was kind of like Fruit Loops, but they had
I couldn't think of it now that you said that. Yeah.
Plant-based colors instead. Well, even if you thought that the Barbara brand or Annie's, or those are the only two I can think of, but maybe they're organic, but still, if you only ate that, you're going to be sick because it's nutritionally deficient food, void of all nutrition, also void of, life force energies, which we talk about a lot. That is also a nutrient for our body. So yes, just keep that in mind. And what I think I was starting to say earlier is the example of BPA. That's always a good example, but it's all the time. Yeah. So when BPA, people started knowing what BPA was, and it was bad for us, the companies took out that BPA, but then they put in BPD. Is that what it was? No, I can't even
remember. It was BP.
BP something. But anyway.
It was just a different letter.
Right. That did the exact same thing because all of these chemicals that we're talking about, they have a purpose. So they have to put something back in to fill that purpose.
Right. So, and the thing is that it takes a really long time for there to be enough exposure, enough people interested enough to put money into proving ill effect. So it takes a really long time. Like BPA was in stuff for a long time. So even if that manufacturing company knows that they are almost identical chemicals and that eventually the same thing might happen, it can't be proven now and there's nobody willing to put the time and effort into it now. So they continue on in that process. People, not everyone, I think people are waking up to this, but a lot of people kind of like they don't have cooking skills and they don't know that's not really food. People don't know that the government doesn't really have strict regulations on our products. We are definitely I have the freedom to choose whatever I want. That is kind of a slogan or a way of thinking that can do harm. And we're not really thinking about it that way. Like you can't want that and then not put the effort into understanding what you're consuming. If you can consume whatever you want, then they're not going to put huge amounts of testing in place before something goes to market. They're just going to say, well, it's never been proven bad before and people want it, they're buying it, they're consuming it, so go ahead.
Yeah, and it tends to be we always come from the aspect of precautionary principle where we assume something is bad for us until it's proven that it's not. Well, all of these regulations that have always been in place have been, let's assume this is good for us until it's proven that it's not.
Exactly.
And like Jenny said, it takes decades and decades. And always remember that there's so much coming in. It's not just the food, it's everything. Excuse me. So, just kind of keep that in mind. And it still comes down to root cause, comes down to all the environmental factors, not just our food, and then what dysfunction has caused within the body. So that's the other thing. So even if, let's just keep saying when rather than if, when these chemicals are taken out of our food and, whatever else is planned, let's just assume it's going to happen because it would be interesting, but it's going to take a long time, first of all. And still people are sick. And the reason they're sick and having the symptoms is because all of these environmental factors, including the food, have come in and created this perfect storm within everyone's bodies. And just because now all of a sudden these chemicals and things are taken out of the food doesn't mean that that is what's going to heal you. That might help prevent, long term down the road, decades from now, but it's not going to help heal anyone in the meantime. So not only do we need to address, the outside influences, you have to address also what's going on internally. So always keep that in mind as well.
Right. And I think it's interesting that we usually talk about these topics from, don't get overwhelmed with what you don't have control over, where you make sure you remember where you do. And it's kind of the opposite. We're talking about don't get overwhelmed with all these big positive changes and give up the control in your own environment.
Right.
So it's a balancing act. And that balancing act kind of translates to everywhere in your life. You have to be aware of what's going on. You can take action where you can take action. You can make impact. But you always have to keep your internal environment, your external environment in balance, and then be aware of the areas out there where you have less control. And it can be in positive or negative, we're learning, way, which makes sense. So you're not going to magically become imbalanced because of these outside, we've got these layers. So if this part out here is great, you still have to balance the things that are right here. And it's not just food, it's your cleaning products, it's your mindset, it's everything, where your house is, what your job is, like all of these things you have to really take into account and balance. And it's amazing if this means more people are going to wake up to that. Like maybe these things being just in the news are going to say, hey, that's weird. I didn't know those chemicals were illegal everywhere else. Like people who are, that's the point they're at. They're just starting their journey. So, we want to make sure that there's enough people like us and like a lot of you listening who are there to help those people, like jump on board, like, come on, guys. And be able to move down their healing journey faster, now that this information is getting out there.
Right. And something else to remember, like just on that line, Jenny and I have been doing this for 2 decades now. We've been talking about this, that the chemicals that are being shipped overseas, or not the chemicals, the food and different things are different than what we have. I mean, this has been going on for so long and we've been talking about it. So if it's new to you or to other people that you might share this with, if it's new to them, the very fastest way to get ahead of it is work with somebody that has been doing this for 2 decades,
Right.
like we have, and we're talking about food, but it's the same with building supplies, all kinds of things. Like, for instance, the drywall that we have in this country has formaldehyde in it and other chemicals. And the same companies will make the drywall that goes to America, and then they make the drywall that is shipped overseas to the other countries where those chemicals are banned. So you've got, less chemicals in this one drywall, no formaldehyde that's going to other people. And then in America, it's all okay. So then we get
And it's not actually
toxic.
just America, it's state by state. Like there's things that
Right,
companies manufacture differently for California than they do for Florida. And
right,
they're trying to keep their bottom line. That's their main goal, that bottom line. So if it costs a little bit more to make the product, then they're only going to make it for the place it's required, and they're going to keep the cheaper product where it's not required yet. Um, and this just happens all the time, all different things. Like we're saying, it's not just food, it is everything you consume, like anything you buy and use in your life.
right. And we're talking about the long drawn out process to have this shift, because they can't just come in and say all these things need to be taken out,
Right.
because there has to be something to be put back in. And a lot of these they'll need creative people coming up with new ways and
Yeah.
new inventions and that type of thing, because maybe there isn't something you can put back in. And always, and again, going back to where you have control, literally, if everyone had been using their control and was educated on this topic, so many people just don't know. So many people. I mean, the majority of people, I think more and more people are starting to know, but most people just literally don't know. But if everyone had known or did know, it's consumer choices always that would make the biggest change and the fastest change.
Right.
Environment is just, our water is polluted, our bodies are polluted, the soil is polluted, all these things. But if literally everyone changed what they were buying, eating, consuming, bringing into their home, dumping down the toilet, dumping down the sink, spraying on your lawns, you were only using regenerative local farmers or growing your own, we wouldn't have a need for big ag. All consumer choices could change everything, and
Right.
much faster.
Yeah. Think about the products that get launched that they
Right.
put time and effort into, and then people don't like them. They're not illegal. People just don't like them. They don't get purchased. Those things get phased out. Like we see that all the time. Like, especially in like soda companies, they're always coming out with these crazy new, zero this and nothing that. And generally they're full of chemicals and people don't like them. They probably should be illegal, but they're
Right.
not. It's those consumer choices. Like the company knows that people are looking for something healthier. So they try
Right.
to find a way to market that. They put the effort in, and then people don't want it. So they get rid of it and replace it with something else. Like that is where you can make a real impact, is with your buying dollars, whether you're buying or not buying. It makes a big impact on our um, our whole environment, just because of the economy that we live in our country. That's just how things work.
Right. And even thinking, right now we're one of the sickest countries in the world, and especially in the industrial countries, that are comparable to us. We're like at the bottom of, we're the sickest people. We have the highest rates of death, chronic illness, infant
And we spend the
mortality,
most money
and we
on
spend the
health.
most money. But we are also by far, if you look at the statistics, we are by far we spend the most as consumers. We're the most wasteful country.
Right.
You know,
And a lot of areas were the least regulated. Like we're so big on having freedom that we give this to all the manufacturers, all the companies, and we're like, yeah, you can start a company, you can sell something. We don't want big government. So if that's the way we want to live, we really have to be in charge of our choices and be in control. And or else no one is, and everyone's just out there to make money and no one's looking out for your health.
right. And part of being in control is being aware, being educated, learning, and then being able to make choice. And again, it all comes down to choice. And, you know, we've given the example before. I mean, there's a million choices you make all day long, but people need to be educated on that so they can make the choice that's best for them. So, you know,
Right. Like you can't have power without information. You have to have
right.
that knowledge in order to take the action that is best for you in your circumstance. If you don't have the knowledge, then that action isn't really powerful. It's just an action or a reaction, which is even
Right.
worse. Um, you
And
know,
we need more and more people to have the knowledge where they can teach others, because that's the thing. You know, we're saying you need to be educated on this so you can make a choice, but there are not enough people on the education side of it. And I don't mean like school education, I mean like people like us. You know, there's so many people in the natural health space. And I think more and more with this, you know, how this new buzz that we're talking about moving forward politically, people are going to start noticing, you know, it's going to come out more about conventional medicine and how they're not able to help chronic conditions, because
right.
chronic
And
disease, chronic illness is an epidemic, right? So more people
yes.
are going to be looking for it in the natural space, but not everyone in the natural space has this knowledge or information
Right.
to actually then empower people with that knowledge. So we need more and more people doing what we're doing.
Yeah, it's like we said at the beginning, jump on the bandwagon.
Right.
Come in with us.
Yeah, because that's what we do. You know, you've heard us talk about our preventive health practitioner program. That's what we do. We teach you our system so that you have the knowledge, so then you can help people heal, eliminate their symptoms, but you can teach them so that they can be empowered to then make these choices.
I mean, our ultimate goal is to really, you know, to do away with the need for our company. But
Right.
again, like the change in the government is going to take a long time. Change in the world, in our society, is going to take a long time. You know, hopefully in a couple of generations, kids
Right.
will grow up understanding these foundational pieces of health and wellness and not just being inundated by regulation and marketing that is pushed by money. Like that's where we're at right now.
Right.
Like hopefully it will just be back to where we, you know, as a society supported each other, understood what everyone needed, and came together to provide that so that children growing up just innately have that knowledge, right? That's our goal. But again, it's going to take a long time and we have to have people working towards that goal or it's never going to happen.
Right. And it's like you said, I mean, people even think, well, in the next 4 years or the next 8 years, you know, thinking very small, short term, but we are talking, like Jenny said, generations out. I mean, and because it's so big, and not only generational, the way people are living and consuming and eating and, you know, maybe growing their own food and preserving food and all that kind of thing, but also, if you listen to us, we talk about epigenetics a lot. So all of these chemicals that we're talking about and the EMFs and all the things, you know, the chemicals have been around for about 50 years, longer than that, but really hardcore in our plastics and in our food and that kind of thing. Gotten worse over the decades, obviously. But then things like wireless, what, in the 90s that came out. So that's more and more and more, but all of that coming in, like I said, the environmental piece of it causes the perfect storm in your body, but it causes genetic mutation in the body. So when we're talking generational out, it will take several generations for those genetic mutations to kind of work their way out too. So
Right.
with everyone being so sick now and this chronic illness, maybe you are able to heal yourself now, and then you get healthy, you have a baby, you're still kind of passing along that, what you have been through.
Right.
And then, with that baby, if you can do everything in your power, choices, and maybe the chemicals being taken out as well, that baby has such a, higher percentage of being healthier than you were.
Right.
And then another generation of living this lifestyle, that generation is going to be even healthier because we have
Right.
our bodies are
And that's
amazing.
how it should work. Like the
Right.
generation after you should have a better life, a better environment, and live longer and healthier and happier. Like that
Right.
should be all of our goal for the world, is to create that for the next people in the world. And right now we're going backwards. Like the next generation is going to live less. They're more stressed. They're having more mental health issues, more actual health issues. And the people who have been in charge are saying, I'm just going to fix what's good for me. I don't care what's happening next. That's your problem. Just get up and get better.
Right. Yeah. So, but it's definitely, I think I was trying to remember what you were talking. So up until 1 or 2 years ago, I think, or maybe it might have been the last 4 years. It's been such a blur. But the argument was that people are living longer.
Right.
But even if they were living longer, the quality of life was terrible. It's like barely living, just miserable existence, but you're alive. So then they say,
And that's why there's a huge increase in assisted living and nursing homes and those jobs that require just you to be a caretaker for someone who cannot take care of themselves, because people are living longer, but they're not able to do anything for themselves.
Right. And it must be a miserable existence. I can't even imagine. And then the statistic I was trying to remember, I want to say it was last year it came out, that the average age of men finally went down by 6 years. That's significant in just a year's time. So now it says that men, I can't remember what the age is, but it has gone down 6 years. Women, not as much, but that's huge. So we're definitely not only not living as long now, the quality of life is much less. So
Right. And they're saying that this, like the people who are in their like prime working age right now, I don't know if that's all millennial, I'm sure it overlaps both ways, but those people in like their mid 20s till probably mid 50s is what they're talking about, are taking what equals a complete work day, like every week and a half, they're losing to health related issues. Not like this whole stereotype of, oh, I have to take a mental health day and then they're out shopping. Like literally, they are losing that much time at work. I'm sure it's not once a week, but that's what it equals out to, because of dysfunction, disability, disease, lifestyle choices.
Right. And that's another thing, we should be able to work. You hear a lot of people when they decide to retire, then their health goes downhill. So if people want to work longer, if they love their job, not in a stressful situation, that kind of thing, it can help you live longer. But so many people, we see people all the time, and young people that have to step away from their job because they literally cannot do it. They can't concentrate. They have brain fog so bad they're unable to do their job. There's people that are so much pain that they can't, they just can't. They step away from their job, whatever it is.
GI issues where you're in the bathroom a third of your day.
Yeah, the GI issues, right. constantly running to the bathroom. Yeah, it's crazy. So if you think about it from that aspect as well, I kind of lost my train of thought.
I was just thinking we've gotten away from our topic somehow, but it does all tie back in. We're just telling you that there is such a significant problem going on that it's good that it's starting to trickle up and we are starting to make change from a higher level. Hopefully that actually happens. But you have to take control in your environment. You have to make change at your personal level. Hold your power to make yourself healthy and well. You might have to make hard choices as of now because there's not a lot of systems in place, you know, in our society right now that supports this. So yeah, some of these things are hard steps, you know. We just talk about lightly growing your own food and preserving things. For a lot of people, that seems impossible, you know, but you can make change. You can learn and grow over time, and you can pass those things on to the next generation, which is really important as well.
Right.
You have to remember that that's where your power is in your personal environment. Your impact can be greater, but don't lose sight of that.
Right. And another thing to do now, first of all, take action now. Don't wait. That was one thing I wanted to say. Also, on top of your consumer choices and the way, you know, even things like if you're going to replace the flooring in your house, opt out from the luxury vinyl and get hardwood, you know, something like that.
It's so
think,
funny that they have to put the word luxury in front of it to make it seem
right. But people buy that. That's what's so crazy. Anyway, but you know, but also if you can think about the upstream and the downstream of a product or a food or whatever it is, think about the, you know, the manufacturing process. Where did it come from? You know, if it came from GMO farming, did it, you know, whatever, the trickle down, and then what's going to happen afterwards, because all of that also affects our environment. It also affects our water, and also affects our food and our soil, and your health. So again, but that again comes down to consumer choices.
Right.
But the bottom line is, if you are new to this and you're excited, the fastest route to get there is a proven system, which is what we have because we've been doing this for so long. There's no guesswork. We're very good at what we do. So, you know, if you don't want to try to figure it out on your own, because again, it's overwhelming. It's so overwhelming. Or if you want to learn how to do this as a career and use our proven system to help people need this now more than ever.
Right.
It's going to be a huge field right now, not in the future, right now, moving forward. So if you're interested in that as well, always reach out, because we need people not only getting healthy themselves, but having the ability to help other people.
Right. And even if you're not new to this, if you've kind of been aware and you've been taking little baby steps and now you're ready to really commit, then, you know, welcome, come in, talk to us. We'll see how we fit, how you fit with us. And if it's something that you've been working with us for a while, then, you know, let's all get excited and use this current event to kind of move this forward and get the word out and help people understand.
Right. And that's a good point too. Those of you that are working with us, have worked with us, you understand that this works, you know how this works. Tell other people, because people don't know. I mean, they literally don't know. And people need to know. So whether you want to just tell people, spread the word, share our podcast, share just the information you have learned, or if you want to do it obviously as a career and make money, but definitely don't keep it to yourself. I think up until now, so many people keep it to themselves because they're embarrassed that they had a health issue. They're embarrassed that they were a patient, you know, that kind of thing, and tend to be quiet about it.
Mm-hmm.
you know, this is your time to speak it out, you know, shout
Right.
it out to people, because people are starting to be aware enough to know something's wrong, but really have no idea and just have bits and pieces. So yeah, share everything you know on whatever level. So
Yes.
hopefully this was helpful, but the main thing is take action, you know, get educated, make a choice that's best for you, commit to taking your health back now. It's a
Yes.
call to action.
Right. Keep making your impact on the world at large, but
Right.
keep your personal environment in balance and moving forward positively.
Right. But it's an exciting time. And it's just an exciting time because, just like we've been saying for a long time, conventional system needs to crumble. I mean, it just does. It's not capable. So it is an exciting time, but it's one little step into this long path. So just keep
Right.
going.
Yeah.
So yeah. So hopefully this was helpful today. Have a wonderful week. And
Yes.
we will back next Friday, right?
Either Thursday or Friday.
Maybe Thursday next week. Yes.
It'll be a surprise. All
But we'll
right,
keep you
guys.
posted.
Yes. Like and share and follow, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.